Good evening, everybody. Now, I'm just a simple man, and my name is Noah Foster. And welcome to my weekly retrospective on the 205 Live brand called 205 Live Matters, Episode 4. This week, I will be reviewing the February 5th edition of 205 Live, as well as my thoughts on the current state of the brand and roster, as well as my expectations and hopes for the championship match that we will discuss that is now known for the Elimination Chamber. With that, let's get right into the show. So for those of you who don't know, 205 Live is a weekly show that has been going on now for a little over 100 episodes and is live on Tuesday nights after SmackDown Live, which is kind of interesting considering that you already have a crowd that's been there for over 2 hours. So you gotta keep them in fraud, I guess. Is it good for them? I'm not sure. But anyway, let's get into the show. So it starts always with a retrospective from the general manager, Drake Maverick, the former Rockstar Spud of TNA, and he basically gives us the rundown of tonight's show. Tonight's show is going to basically be centered around finding a challenger for the Cruiserweight Champion, currently Buddy Murphy. You might remember him from NXT when he was tag team champs in the team of Blake and Murphy, kind of managed by Alexa Bliss. But anyway, so tonight he talks about how there will be a fatal four-way elimination match to determine the next number one contender for the Cruiserweight title. And he talks about how he picked four of the most deserving people for title contention. The four people are the man of the hour, Lio Rush, recent newest 205 Live signee, Alberto Carrillo, Cedric Alexander, the former Cruiserweight champion, and Akira Tozawa. And basically, after he reads off the names, each one of them gives their short retrospective on why they believe they're the best to challenge for the championship and why they will be champion. So you get Lio Rush, talks about he has one of the best records, and he's also made an impact on Raw, and he's also never challenged for the Cruiserweight title. By the way, this is Drake Maverick giving all these thoughts. Carrillo, he's coming in as an underdog, but he seems more than capable to compete with the best, as proven by his debut against the champ. And you also have Akira Tozawa, who recently has now renewed a friendship with the Brian Kendrick, all hostilities removed, and basically comes in with the most momentum based on his victory from last week. And then you also have, of course, the former champion with pure athleticism and probably the most experience, and he also went over a year undefeated with the title, Cedric Alexander, the former champion. And basically, we go from there straight into the show after the opening vignette, which I like. I mean, this Fiend's more easy to understand. I kind of like how they updated it now to kind of highlight some of the high-flying moves of some of the 205 Live roster. But anyway, so of course we get our introduction to the show by the announcers, Vic Joseph, Nigel McGuinness, and now Aiden English, who is on the commentary table at least through WrestleMania season. I think he's doing okay. It's nice to get a different perspective of somebody that's been in the locker room and kind of knows a little more about all these competitors. So basically, Vic Joseph being the head play-by-play guy, and he does okay. I mean, anyone's better than Michael Cole, let's be honest. He basically gives us a retrospective on the main event, and then asks both Nigel and Aiden, respectively, who they believe should win. Nigel goes on thinking that Lio Rush is the best to win. Aiden goes on about Cedric Alexander being the best to win. And right from there, we go into our first match. Usually 205 Live consists of 2 matches, 3, sometimes with a squash. I don't recall ever seeing an episode with 4, but there's been like 100 episodes, so man. Anyway, our first match is Mike Kanellis versus the Brian Kendrick, the man with a plan. This is interesting because I was going to think, based on last week's episode, that Mike Kanellis was going to face someone else from the Lucha House Party, because last week he lost to Kalisto. So you would think, Grand Metalik or let's say Dorado. Nope, totally different. No sign of Lucha House Party at all. Not even like a recap from their match from Monday night that they lost. So basically, Mike Kanellis and the Brian Kendrick, they go at it in a nice back and forth brawl. And basically, there were 2 things going on here: the pursuit of Mike Kanellis' win on 205 Live, and also just the constant support and outlook of Maria Kanellis, who was on commentary throughout this match. What's interesting is Aiden English kept on hammering the point that If Mike wants opportunities, he needs to win. But Maria keeps saying that every match is a new opportunity and he's learning more holds. I don't know who I agree more with here. I mean, yes, the more you lose, it is a learning experience. Every match is a learning experience, as I've heard. But then again, in English, he makes a valid point. You want opportunities, it's about wins. But then at one point of this match, he kind of fights against his own words, in my opinion. But also, Maria brings up the key point that it's not just one match that makes you, it is the match. And when that match happens, you will remember it, and he will win it. It could be last week, it could be 10 weeks from now, but it'll be at the right time, with the right opponent, and the right setup. What is the match for Mike Kanellis? I'm curious to find out. Anyway, let's get into this match a little bit. So here's some play. So basically, we start off with, of course, both men in the ring. There's a little bit of an exchange. They're trying to tie up with each other. But the match basically really picks up after Mike gets thrown out of the ring, and Maria motivates her husband to get back in the ring, go after the Brian Kendrick, get back in the ring. Of course, he gets tossed out again to the point that Mike's in the barricade. And then the Brian Kendrick goes for a spot involving the announce table, which Maria blocked with her own body. Like, no, you're not doing this. And then Mike takes advantage from there, basically throwing around the Brian Kendrick. At one point, the Brian Kendrick goes for his finisher move, slice spread number 2, off of the repost, which I thought would have been interesting onto the floor, but nope, it was countered by Mike Kanellis into a side slam onto the floor. And this is really the first point of the match where Mike maintains control of this match. I will say this. Mike maintains control most of this match just like he did last week. So, at least he's showing aggression. But again, where's the win? We'll get to that. So following that, we get a suplex spot from Mike Kanellis into our first cover of the match. Kick out. And then we get some kicks to the jaw, and the Brian Kendrick is pushed out of the ring after a vicious kick. And then at one point, Kendrick, he regains advantage after throwing Mike Kanellis into the ring post, delivers a back elbow, and Kendrick runs into a vicious clothesline by Mike. And then at one point, Mike, you could tell he was either getting frustrated or exhaustion was setting in because he was starting to slap himself. Now, I know John Brown about the point that to bring out the best of each other, people had this tradition in Japan where they would slap their opponents. Now, I'm pretty sure that didn't apply here. I think Mike was literally just trying to psych himself up. I think right now Mike is fighting not only the Brian Kendrick, but himself. Just saying. But anyway, following this, we get a suplex counter into a Captain's Hook, the Brian Kendrick submission move. And what's interesting here is the escape that Mike used was one finger on the bottom rope. Just one finger. Shades of Kevin Owens. You remember that from the United States feud with Chris Jericho. But anyway, following that, we get a super kick and then a drop kick into the corner. And then our second side spread attempt countered into another super kick. And then we get a power move from Mike Kanellis, who gets another cover here. Second cover of the match. But still no 3 count. Still no win. Following that, you could see more and more frustration. You could sense more frustration from Maria about commentary. At this point, she's just arguing with it in English, wants Aiden to be quiet. And of course, Nigel's just supporting both of them. And then following that, we get Mike going for his backpack stunner, which is then countered into a near fall by the Brian Kendrick. And then we get a spine buster, beautiful spine buster delivered by Mike Kanellis into another cover. Folks, if you haven't watched 205 Live, realize they use a lot of the same dynamics you would expect on Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Finishers, not basically like their signature moves, but finishers into a bunch of near falls. So know when you watch 205 Live, expect a lot of covers. Necessarily, one move will not end the match. Anyway, following that, we get more frustration, and then we just get more and more elbows to the jaw. And here's where I think Mike really started breaking down, and commentary was putting this over too. There was a point where he just kept going, and I feel like he should have gone for the cover. But no, he just wanted to inflict more punishment, so even more elbows. I think in the end, this was leading towards his downfall, because at one point, Kendrick's just eating them. He says, come on, give me more. So what happens? Mike Kanellis happy to oblige, but instead of elbows, he just keeps eating boots. I think he gave him like 3 boots. And again, they keep pushing this concept. Why not go for the cover? Following that, we get a finisher counter into, finally, I guess 3rd time's the charm here, slice bread number 2. off of the corner, and boom, quick roll-up win after that by Lee Brian Kendrick. Once again, the losing streak for the so-called opportunists, Mike Kanellis, continues. Lee Brian Kendrick is exhausted though, rolls out, lays on the ramp, get replay. And once again, Aiden pushes this point about no win. So where does Mike Kanellis go from here? Maybe challenging someone else for Lucha House Party. Maybe TJP gets in his face and we get through between those two one-on-one. I'm not really sure who else exactly. Maybe Humberto Carrillo. The man needs something, or he just needs to leave, in my opinion. There's just nothing going for him. And I can tell Maria's frustrated too, but of course she has that look where she supports her husband, calms him down, and then she turns away and gives you just that evil eye stare, long eagle stare. So we'll see what happens as far as Mike Kanellis' descent into madness next week. So following that, we get a recap from last week's main event. Last week's main event was Akira Tozawa versus Hideo Itami. Pretty good match. And in the end, it was the outside men that were the difference maker. But it was more about the outcome afterwards that really mattered. And that is building into a story. Basically following the outcome of last week's match where Akira Tozawa won, Daivari just basically lays out Hideo Itami with a lariat. And basically get an Instagram selfie promo, I guess you can call it, from Ari Daivari talking about how he blew it. I was the only guy that really respects him, who had his back. He had opportunity after opportunity, and he just kept blowing it. Screw your respect. If you want something done, you gotta do it yourself. So I guess Daivari now he's finally going back into business for himself. I wouldn't be surprised to see Hideo Itami versus Ari Daivari at some point, just as filler. But I guess this does have some story to it, so. And I think that could have a good match in itself. So we'll see what happens there. I'm looking forward to see who they put up against Ari Daivari as far as his first match. Probably a jobber, in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised to see something next week. Anyway, following that, we get more cameos from the 4 athletes involved in the main event, the Fatal 4 elimination match for the #1 contendership to the Cruiserweight title. We start with Lio Rush, who talks about he is 2-0 against Akira. He basically berates everybody. If you don't know by now, Lio Rush is a trash talker. Simple as that. Basically, he's 2-0 against Akira Tozawa. He does not take Humberto very seriously. He thinks Humberto Carrillo is not ready for this. And he says that the age of Alexander is over. It's time for the champ to fill the rush. Then immediately we just basically keep going through the rest. So next we have Akira Tozawa with D. Brian Kendrick. It's D. Brian Kendrick that speaks first on Akira Tozawa's behalf. He basically says that Akira Tozawa is just scratching the surface of his potential. Nobody thought he was going to win last week against Hideo Itami. And guess what? He did. By the way, at one point, Akira Tozawa is just standing there smiling. Anyway, following that, he nods him, and Akira says, I know I can beat Buddy Murphy. I have yet to face him one-on-one. But I will at Elimination Chamber and become champion. And then, of course, we end with another smile. I gotta admit, I like Akira Tozawa's personality and smile and ring style. And I feel like he would do great in a one-on-one match with Buddy Murphy. Would he do better than Mustafa Ali back in Survivor Series? That's a lot to be desired. Anyway, we get the newcomer, Humberto Carrillo. He talks about how he took Buddy Murphy to the limit in his first match. And really, he did. I was plenty surprised by the guy. And Buddy gave him the nod, too. He also said that he learned a lot from that experience and that he will be champ at the Chamber. So basically, he's just calling himself the winner. It's kind of amazing me how much they just kind of shot the rocket on him and put him in this main event. Honestly, I would expect someone else in this. But like one of the members of Lucha House Party, like Kalisto. But I guess you don't necessarily want a repeat of Royal Rumble to an extent. So, anyway. And then following that, we finally get the former Cruiserweight Champion talking about his run, Cedric Alexander. He talks about how he went through a grueling 15-man tournament and outlasted 15 men to become the Cruiserweight Champion. But also, he built himself and this brand with heart, tears, and soul. Shout out to Mustafa Ali, by the way, his best friend, now on SmackDown Live. And he said he won't rest until the title is back around his waist. So, now we'll see what happens. Or will we? Because guess what, folks? recap. We get another recap from last week. I like how they keep going back to last week. It tells me that they're building stories off each one of the episodes going forward. So that's a key strength for 205 Live. It's more than just wrestling. There are actually some stories behind this stuff. I just wish they had, like, I don't know, a tag team title division, but I digress. Anyway, so we get a recap last week of Tony Nese's suspension following a parking lot brawl with Noam Dar after Drake Maverick refused to give Tony Nese a one-on-one match with Noam Dar the following week before that week. And basically you get a lot of cameos here. You get Drew Gulak, you get Shonda Dudd, you get Drake Maverick, you get Buddy Murphy, basically trying to break this apart, and Tony would just not stop, which inevitably led to his indefinite suspension. And following this, we go straight into the office of the general manager of 205 Live, Drake Maverick, where he is right now in a conversation, just wrapping up currently, with Drew Gulak and Jack Gallagher. But basically, it's Drew saying that, hey, we explained to you that we would be the best coach for Humberto Carrillo. But, again, Drake Maverick reiterated that this match, no one is accompanying anybody to ringside in tonight's main event. Because remember last week, for those of you that watch, Drew Gulak, he offered his coaching services to Humberto Carrillo for a better 205 Live. Anyway, so we'll see what happens as far as next week. I can imagine Drew Gulak being out in the ring, either calling out Humberto Carrillo or seeing him after a match and volunteering his services, or just being in his corner if he has a match next week, or even being on commentary. Again, Drew Gulak, one of my favorites on the brand. And anyway, following after Drake Maverick's reiteration that no one's coming anybody to ringside at tonight's main event, he basically says, fine, but this kid is going down the wrong path, and if anything happens to him, that's on you. What's funny is Jack Gallagher didn't say a word. He just gave basically Drake Maverick this glaring side stare and just lightly nodded his head and walked out of the office. Following that, we went straight into another person, Noam Dar. And basically Noam Dar says that he's fine, no injuries. The doctor says that he's good. And he immediately says, I want a match next week with Tony Nese. Drake Maverick, of course, is reluctant to give him that after the events, because he just cannot see that type of action happening again in 205 Live. But Noam Dar kind of forces him when he says, look, he attacked me, and as a man, I need to set this right. So let me settle in the ring, or I'll settle it somewhere else. And of course, Drake didn't want to risk anything further than what happened last week, especially outside of 205 Live brand. So reluctantly, he gave the match within the confines of 205 Live, which means next week we will get Tony Nese versus Noam Dar. But this time, it will be a no disqualification match. No DQ, folks. So that's sure to be an interesting barn burner. Usually when they do these gimmick matches, Falls Count Anywhere, no disqualification, tornado tags, they are highlights to behold. And I'm looking forward to seeing this live next week. But I digress. So we have our first match officially made for next week, which finally leads us to the main event, the Fatal 4-Way Elimination Match for the #1 contendership to the Cruiserweight title. Whew, oh boy, what a match it was. Everybody brought it. So basically, all four men, they come to the ring by themselves, as illustrated by Drake Maverick. And we get a barn burner of a match. You start off wondering how it's going to start out. Well, Lio Rush doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut, like other people that I will not mention. And basically, it becomes a 3-on-1 assault. But Lio, he is very quick and elusive. He basically dodges everybody, but finally gets caught by a blockade in the form of Cedric Alexander. Doesn't get a tap at him, though. He gets attacked off the screen by what I like to call a suicide headbutt by Akira Tozawa that drives Lio Rush through and onto the table, leaving him out for a little while. So basically following that, we get multiple exchanges between two of the remaining other men. We start out with Cedric and Carrillo. They're exchanging vicious forearms, and Carrillo is head by Cedric. And this is like one of the key spots in the match that I really enjoyed. At one point, Humberto Carrillo is held by Cedric Alexander at the ropes for an attempted suplex spot. Akira Tozawa comes back into play. He goes over the top ropes, rolls out over Cedric Alexander, and then basically we get, I guess you can call an assisted German suplex that not only rolls over Cedric Alexander, but sends Carrillo flying across the ring. I thought that was pretty cool in itself. So basically following this, we get a pickup again. Lio Rush, he comes back into the match after Akira Tozawa goes for a suicide headbutt, stops him dead in his tracks. And basically, Rush then decides to do a suicide dive on Tozawa and Cedric. And this is where Rush really showcased what he's capable of and controlled most of the match. Basically, from there, we got a springboard handstand kick to Carrillo by Lio Rush. He's trashing on like, you're trash. This is my division. That's why I'm the man of the hour. And basically get Carrillo versus Lio for a while. At one point, Carrillo, he tries to counter Lio Rush, but Lio counters to a tornado DDT and gets a near fall, but nope. Following that, we get Akira out of nowhere, missile drop kick to Carrillo after Lio gets caught with a kick by Humberto Carrillo. And then Lio gets a quick roll up on Akira Tozawa, but that's not enough. Following that, we get a kicking exchange between Rush and Akira that ends up with Rush kicking Akira, getting a cover. Still not enough. Then following that, we got both men going to the corner. Akira's up in the corner. Lio goes after him. Lio puts the boots up, pushes him straight into a messy-looking lumbar check. And Leo's the first man eliminated by Cedric Alexander. This kind of surprises me considering, why would you eliminate Lio so early? I mean, he's like the only heel in the match. You would think the heel would go a little further in these matches, but I guess not. I wonder if this is going to lead to another Lio Rush versus Cedric Alexander match, which I would be okay with, because Lio, he sells the lumbar check pretty well, almost like how Rock sells Stone Cold Stunners, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, let's keep going for this match. So next segment we got is Humberto Carrillo. He basically just goes on a kicking combination, and then we get a missile dropkick, beautiful by Humberto Carrillo. Just sends Akira flying. Get a roll through moonsault into a cover, still not enough. Following that, we get a, I guess you could call it a powerbomb roll through, because Carrillo tried a powerbomb, I believe, Akira Tozawa. And then we get another powerbomb attempt, and then we get shades of almost a disaster kick by Cody by Carrillo. And then Alexander, he comes back into play, tries to take out Carrillo. But it looks like on, his springboard clothesline, I don't know if you call this a botch or the ropes were slippery or what, but Cedric had a nasty landing. And it looked like he may have tweaked his knee. And this became a focal point for the majority of the rest of the match, which inevitably, I think, led to the finish. But anyway, following that springboard clothesline, which he still did connect, all three men are down in the middle of the ring. And then all three eventually go to the corner, middle rope. Something bad is going to happen here. High risk, high reward, as they say. And basically, Carrillo, he takes out Cedric by just dropping him from the top rope. Cedric had like a nasty landing, like 2 or 3 bumps, I believe. I think he first hit the ropes, and then he hit the apron, and then he was just out cold. But then following that, Akira, he takes advantage and basically does something similar and takes down Carrillo, who gets hung up at the top rope and just drops in the ring. And then Akira goes for his finish, a top rope back senton bomb, nails it on Carrillo. Carrillo's eliminated. I didn't see Carrillo winning this match. I mean, he's new to the brand, and you don't want to push this guy too quickly for the title, in my opinion. It seems like he's going to be set up in a storyline feud with Drew Gulak, which I'm looking forward to those matches. Again, it's all about, we're better at 205 Live, but in the end, it's also just Drew Gulak seeing if he can make a high flyer submit. Humberto Carrillo with his high flying background and stellar kicks, you're in for an interesting match. So I look forward to seeing that. I can see this starting off as early as next week. Anyway, so we're down to 2 men. And basically, you have the 2 most experienced men and 2 former Cruiserweight champions. Excuse me. So following this, we get a meetup between Cedric Alexander and Akira Tozawa. Both men know what they're going after. Both men take it to a new level. Both men got serious. Akira Tozawa, he takes out his mouth guard, and Cedric Alexander, he takes off the elbow pad he's wearing. And basically, we just get exchanged of forearms for a little while. And then following this, we get Akira Tozawa going for his octopus submission. I believe they call it an iron octopus. I always have trouble with that word. Sorry, folks. But eventually, this leads to a roll through cover. Not enough. Then we got Tozawa trying to go for his high-end suplex, and it gets countered. Then we get a roll through by Cedric for a near fall. Nope. And then following this, both men be in the middle of each other's foot. Both men get booted, both men down. After that, we get a little bit more of an exchange. Then we get one of my favorite moves by Akira Tozawa. We get the so-called, what is it called, fake-out jab. We just drops Cedric Alexander. I love that move. And then we get a spinning forearm strike by Cedric Alexander, one of his staples. Both men broad, like I said. Then Cedric goes for his springboard takedown, I guess you can call it. They call it the neuralizer, but it gets countered into a German with a bridge. Nope, match keeps going. And Cedric knows what Akira is going for. He grabs him by the ankle, preventing him from going for that top rope back senton. But Akira eventually gets to the rope. But Cedric meets him there and stops him. Both men are on the apron. You're like, what's going to happen here? We're going to get a standing Spanish fly. Is one going to just get dropped face first? Are they both going to go back into the ring? Is one going to go for a suplex spot or a brainbuster? You never know what's going to happen on an apron spot. What happened here is, well, Cedric Alexander took down Akira. Just dropped him back first onto the apron. Or was it face first? But anyway, this eventually led to probably the nearest near fall of the match. A Mitsunoku driver by Cedric Alexander with a beautiful cover on Akira Tozawa. And a kick out. To the shock of Cedric Alexander. His eyes were wide open. And the crowd was hot at this point. They kept chanting "ha," and they seemed to be behind both men. But eventually, we get Cedric going for his lumbar check, his coup de grace. And it gets countered at least 2 or 3 times in my opinion. Which leads Akira Tozawa to hit him with an inverted Rana. Which just leaves Cedric into the drop zone. Where Akira Tozawa goes for his top rope back senton. And finally gets the win. So Akira Tozawa will face Buddy Murphy one-on-one for the Cruiserweight title at the Elimination Chamber on February 17th. Well, this should be interesting because, let's see. I know that there's been reports about how Buddy Murphy sometimes feels frustrated. Akira Tozawa, he hasn't had a one-on-one championship match in over a year and a half. He hasn't been Cruiserweight champion since his 24-hour reign after he beat Neville. So I don't know if I see Akira Tozawa getting the title back, considering how long Buddy Murphy has had it. He's only had it since Super Showdown. I could see the title change at WrestleMania, but I'm not sure. But I'm not making that official prediction. I'll have predictions next week. Anyway, following this, we're not quite done. Buddy Murphy comes on the Titantron and says, "Congratulations, you beat 3 of the best cruiserweights, and now you got a chance to try and stop the unstoppable." He also says that he's not looking past you, but he is looking through you. He's basically looking through Akira Tozawa on his pursuit to be Cruiserweight Champion come WrestleMania to cement his legacy as the greatest Cruiserweight of all time. So, we'll see what happens in this chamber. It should be a good match. It damn well better not be on the kickoff show because 205 Live matters. Put fucking Shane and Miz on the kickoff show because I don't give a damn about that. In my opinion, I don't think the Usos really care either. Nobody already reported how WWE's worried about losing the Usos. You know what? Go to AEW. You'll do better there. Hell, go to Ring of Honor. I like to see them face the Briscoes. Usos would do better right now in anything. They already beat every team pretty much on SmackDown Live except for Sandy. Where the hell is Sandy? Sorry, I'm going off topic, but anyway. So, that was this week's episode 205 Live. Before it was a great episode. What made me a little curious, though, is that we got no Lucha House Party. There was no Chiche P. And I wonder what's basically happening with those 4. I know Lucha House Party, they're more involved in Monday Night Raw in pointless tag matches. And then TJP, I know he's venting frustrations about his push on 205 Live. Well, he's been doing that for a while, but he seems to be doing that more than usual now. So, is he fed up with 205 Live? Is he going to be moving on? I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns right now in WWE, especially with this international superstar shakeup coming up, which who knows what that could mean. Anyway, so that was this week's episode 205 Live. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. If you want to follow me and talk about wrestling, you can look me up, NoDQ.com/Noah takes you to my Twitter. And also, folks, just keep supporting NoDQ.com, okay? It's a great community, great website. They're a big reason why I do this. Go buy a shirt, NoDQ.com/shirts. They got like over 30 designs. I got like 10 of them. Your name might even be on this shirt. Mine is. I like this shirt. It's one of my favorites. Check out our playlist on Spotify, #TeamNoDQ. Everything on there from Cardi B, Santana, Flo Rida to Don McLean, actually. Check out NoDQ.com for all the latest in wrestling news, memes, rumors, columns, polls, wrestling trivia challenge, and just all around wrestling humor in general. And as always, folks, like I stand for, I'm just a simple man and a lifelong fan of wrestling. So support your wrestling outlets both big and small, and let's keep growing this wrestling community together. Simple as that. With that, stay tuned next week where I'm sure to be part of Team No DQ's Predictions League as I try to take the title from Greg Cherry as we go for our predictions for WWE Elimination Chamber overall. And also, if you haven't already, check out Wrestle Trio Challenge and stay tuned for the finale Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good luck, Greg Cherry. I think you're going to need it. And with that, folks, thank you for watching. I'll see y'all next time. If you're wanting to do a Skype video call and talk 205 live, look me up, let me know. I'd love to hear from you, love to have you. And as always, 205 Live matters, folks. Watch it, support it, love it. Simple as that. See you next time, and have a good night.